Hi everyone, I'm going to be doing this video today on the second Bible verse for the year in this book, which is actually beginning of the year in this book, which is January 2, so it's going to be relating to the beginning of this year. So it says for the verse for today, Psalm 125:2. As the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people both now and forevermore. So that's Psalm 125:2. This verse can mean many things, and that's because when you open the Bible, God personally talks to you, and his personality comes out when you read his word. So he can talk to you many different ways through a Bible verse. And so I'm going to be reading the second comment here from a man named James, and this is not from the Bible, but this is just his comment, his quote. He said, "I hope it may be the happiest year of your life, as I think each succeeding year of everybody's life should be. It is certain that there really exists laid up and ready for those who will just lay hands upon it, enough for everyone and enough forever." He's talking about happiness. "How could I be anything but quite happy if I believed always that all past is forgiven and all the present furnished with power and all the future bright with hope?" I really like that part where he said furnished with power. But I'm going to talk about the first part where he said all the past is forgiven. So all the past is forgiven. And sometimes we don't realize, we sometimes don't forgive ourselves for things. And sometimes we go around bitter and we go around mad at ourselves. It's a natural body's reaction to think negative to things at times because we want to protect ourselves. So we naturally think negative of things sometimes. Negative thoughts come into our head, which is not what God wants us to have, because that's from the enemy. And the reason that's from the enemy is because we are the child of the Most High God. There's no sadness in that at all. There's only hope. So, and he protects us and he loves us. Even when we die, we have the biggest gift of all, being with him. So we're always protected and always loved, and he's always with us in every situation. Anyways, so all the past is forgiven. So we should know that God forgives everything. And you have to, he sometimes waits for you to ask for forgiveness for a particular situation or thing. Even though he's already forgiven you, he wants you to communicate it to him, because you have to talk with God. You have to pray with God. You have to communicate with him. And he wants you to do that. So anyways, all the past is forgiven. So if you have anything that you have a burden upon yourself, or that you feel guilty about, ask God forgiveness. Talk to God about it. Tell him all the raw. Tell him all the dirty. Get personal with him. Tell him all the embarrassing. Tell him things that you think he might even not approve of in the way you think or handled something, or the way you are thinking. He doesn't care if you're not perfect. He wants to hear the raw, the dirty, everything. I'm not saying he wants to hear bad things, but he wants to hear you being very authentic with him and telling him everything, and he will speak to you. Anyways, the next part was, and all present furnished with power. The very thing that is very important in your life is always praying for forgiveness. Not always, I mean, you don't pray for every little thing, because we are naturally sinners, so we always sin. Even in our minds, it's a sin, and God is the only one, he is without sin. So we are naturally sinners, and you don't pray for forgiveness even just for a tiny little thing. But I mean, like, if it's burdening you, that is you needing to lift up to God and communicate to God that you need to ask for forgiveness for it. So any burdens, break the chains. Any burdens, lay it down before God. And even in the way you're thinking, the way anything that's negative or impactful towards you that's negative, tell God that you want to change and ask for forgiveness for thinking those ways, even that's a silly thing, and he's not mad at you. It's just you confirming to yourself and to him that those things are bad for you, like the things in your life that are happening or the way you're thinking. Just talk to God, communicating with God and having a relationship, not just by doing good acts, because so many people can do good acts, but actually talking to him personally, very personal and raw and detailed, telling him everything, you know. That's what you have to constantly do, because it's a relationship with God. And then it says, and all the presents furnished with power. So your life is not completely well if you're not asking for forgiveness for things that burden you. So don't have anything in your life that's burdening you. And then break any chains. And be good to yourself as well. Forgive yourself as well. Once you ask forgiveness, it's only once, and God forgave it already once you said it. Anyways, and then and I also want to point out, don't be mad at yourself after you ask for forgiveness, because it's washed already. That's actually a sin in itself, to be mad at yourself once you ask for forgiveness, because what's the point of the cross? Jesus suffered all of that physically for nothing, and then you saw the movie where he's like being whiplashed, and it's probably worse than that back in those days, and he was really bloody. What's the point of all of that if you're just going to be mad at yourself after he did that so you could be forgiven and have a relationship with him and feel the extent of real life, which is him, and real love, which is him? Anyways, and don't think that you're doing good by being mad at yourself. No, that's the opposite. I'm not just saying that to be positive or anything, but that's not who God is at all. Some people think that being mad at themselves, they're doing a good thing. But no, that's not who God is at all. That is a sin in itself. Anyways, the next part I want to talk about, and all the present furnished with power. So you're forgiven. And then the next part is to know, the happiest part is to know God is in control. He's in control of everything. He's in control of people. He's in control of your situations. He controls everything. In a snap of his finger, he can do anything. He doesn't go around controlling people really, though. He has a gentle spirit and stuff, but he can speak to someone in their mind. He can say something to someone or make a situation happen. He has power. He can do anything, and he can move around situations. And if you're a child of the Most High God, which you are, if you believe in him, that he died on the cross for your sins, and admit that you're a sinner, and you submitted your life to him, doesn't mean we're going to be perfect. We can even make big mistakes, but if you did it just one time, the rest of your life, you're already a child of the Most High God. You don't have to be perfect or anything. Just one time, just recognizing that he died on the cross for your sins, that you are a sinner, and that he is Lord. So anyways, once you do that, the power is that you're forgiven, and then all the presence is furnished with power. So knowing he is in full control of everything. So you are a child of the Most High God. And if you're walking in him and abiding in him to the extent, you're not going to be perfect, but your heart is in the right place, and you're wanting to be, your goal is looking towards him. You may get sidetracked or anything, but God will help you all the time to lead you towards your destiny. And we talked about earlier in a couple of videos about destiny. I forgot what I exactly said, but your destiny in God, everybody has a destiny, and it's filled with greatness. You are not ordinary. You're not mediocre. You are a child of the Most High God, and he has big dreams and big plans for you. And some people live their life and they don't even go towards their destiny sometimes, because they're not keeping God first place in the heart and yearning and walking towards him, and they don't hear what he's trying to say sometimes. Like, he puts desires in your heart on purpose, And he calls you towards things. Listen to your heart every day. Know who's talking, the enemy or God, and yearn for God and walk towards that and have big dreams, because he created our hands and feet to do magnificent, glorious things. And he can do so much. His power is so big, you have no idea. With God on your side, you can do anything. You can do the impossible because he is in full control. You have no idea how big God is, that he is in so much control that he controls everything. No one is more powerful than God. So don't get intimidated by any person or any situation or anything in your life. So anyways, here's another. The last part is, and all the future bright with hope. So there's no sadness in God. A lot of times you see people who are suffering in situations with illnesses, with disease, with addiction, with financial problems, with being lonely, with depression. You see those things, and it is hard. But if you yearn and constantly yearn for God and keep your eyes set on him, he will break you free of those things eventually, or he will give you a fulfilled life while you're in those things, and eventually give you those things that you're praying for. And sometimes you're in a situation but you don't realize that you actually have a lot of things to be thankful for, and that God is in control and he can turn around at any moment. And so yeah, he's in full control and he owns everything. He is very rich. They talk about levels of richness. You talk about the person who owns a company, like they're rich. Then you talk about the person who owns like a typical company, they're rich. But the person who owns like who made the computers, like who made the company Apple, who made Facebook, those people are really rich. And then we talk about God, who owns the heavens, who owns the universe. He owns absolutely everything. He owns the ground that we walk on. He owns the water that we drink. He owns the air that we breathe. He owns the birds. He owns everything. And to think that he created all of this, and then he put you here, and he says in the Bible that you are his most prized possession here in the world. What do you think that all adds up to you? You have a purpose. You have a destiny. You are destined for great things. So don't live your life thinking that you're stuck in a suffering, that you're stuck in an illness, that you're stuck in an addiction, that you're stuck in a disease, that you're stuck in depression or something. Don't live your life like that, because God can break it free at any moment. Sometimes it just takes faith and just being thankful where you are at and knowing that God is in control, and then believing for those goodness and seeing what God can really do in your life, and knowing that, thinking at the same time, I know God, even if it doesn't go my way, you are in control and you know more. Your ways are more higher than your ways of thinking are more higher than our ways of thinking, and your ways of doing are more higher than what we are thinking. So just knowing that God is in control and that he can do anything and he knows more than you do, it sets everything at ease and it sets everything at peace, and there's always hope and a bright future. So if you're in a situation, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, that God gives you a hope and God gives you a future that's bright, and he always takes care of you. Like he told in Bible verse, he takes care of the birds in the air. How much more will he take care of you? They don't worry about what they're going to eat or drink or anything like that. How much more will he take care of you? It just takes a simple act of faith and believing and not giving up on continually walking with him, even if you sin, even if you make mistakes, but continually having a heart set on fire for him and trying your best, you can walk out of bad situations. And there's always a reason for everything, but God always has a light at the end of the tunnel. So there's always hope, and it's bright with him. And we deserve everything, to know that he owns everything. He's the richest of all. He owns everything. He can do anything. What do you think he can do for you? What do you think he can give for you? And that you are his most prized possession. What do you think he wants to give to you if you just have faith at times, and if you just try to move towards him, what he calls in your heart. Try to live daily, trying to honor him in everything, and trying to follow him. He can help you in situations. Not just can, he will help you in situations. So there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's bright, and he can do very powerful things. And challenge God, believe for big, and he will show up in your life, and he'll show you how big he is. He is big, so he can do anything. So that's what I wanted to say. That he is very powerful, and you are his child, and he wants to give you everything and offer you everything. Sometimes it just takes faith, and being thankful where you're at, and recognizing the things he wants you to recognize, and trying to be steadfast in him. Steadfast means continually trying to look towards him every day. And as you do everything, you will make mistakes. We're all sinners. That's guaranteed. But if your heart is in the right place, and you're trying to move towards him constantly, even if you made a mistake, even if you sinned, he will reward you. So that's my video for today. And the thing that I want to say about the Bible verse, Psalm 125:2, as the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people both now and forevermore. What do you think of when there's a town back in those days, when they're in a meadow in someplace, and then there's mountains surrounding? It's like a protection. They feel protected when there's mountains. So how do you feel? So the Lord surrounds his people both now and forevermore. So how do you feel? God is saying that he surrounds you like a mountain, because they're talking about the town Jerusalem. He surrounds, as the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people both now and forevermore. He surrounds you, and he's big, and he's powerful, and he's in control. So how do you feel reading that Bible verse? So there's nothing to be afraid of, actually, if you just always think of that. So that's my Bible verse for today, and my reading for today. Anyways, okay.